Effectively, my brother and my mother were put in long-term care. They've been living together since my father's death. My mother-in-law was also in the same facility, so that facilitated for us a little bit when we went to visit. And what was especially difficult was trying to convince the Anglophones that our family needed French language services. Their answer was always, oh, they understand. But we knew that they didn't. My mother, unfortunately, came from a time where you didn't tell people, you didn't push the issue because you were being treated as an outsider. You were told to go back home. You were told to be quiet. So she was taught not to make any waves about being French and not pushing the issue. So oftentimes they'd ask her questions and she'd just answer yes, not knowing what she was committing to, not knowing what she was saying. My brother, who was a teacher for many years, was caught correcting or arguing with the nurses and the PSWs, trying to teach them French so that they'd speak French to them, even if they didn't speak French at all. So yeah, those situations are difficult. There was one particular instance where one of the residents, who was a Francophone from Ottawa region, who had fallen and hurt her head. And when the nurse was asking her questions in English, she'd only answer her back in French. And what was sad about the whole situation is it never occurred to the healthcare provider to try to find somebody that would speak French to help her understand the patient. Instead, she would tell the patient to speak in English because she didn't understand. I found that hard to take. So at that point I went and I helped in the translation and tried to. But once again, that wasn't my mother. It wasn't my responsibility. And it's not my training, therefore, you were putting me in a very awkward situation, but the woman needed a French language services, and it never occurred to anybody. So I think it's important that some kind of system, educational system, is developed for Anglophones to understand the importance of learning French, but also understanding how it feels to be in a crisis situation and not be able to get a service in the language you're most comfortable in. But because most Anglophones haven't lived that experience or haven't dealt with that experience, I really don't feel like it was malicious in any way. They were all very sympathetic and nice and very soft with the patients, but the reality was they didn't understand the reality of the patient. And until they do that, or until they find some ways to make them understand and have a better system to take care of French patients, I think it's the patient that's suffering in all of that. And I think there's a need for more French language services by the Francophone community in long-term care facilities. As I said earlier, I had my mother-in-law, my mother, and my brother in the same facility, so every Sunday, us was tradition, French-Canadian family, Sunday afternoons was spent as a family at our parents' home. That was there. If you were in town, there was no exception to that. So we continued that tradition when they were all in long-term care. So we'd go grab everybody, we'd bring them to one single living room, and we were anywhere between 6 to 10, 12, 14, sometimes 15 people. And oftentimes we'd see other Francophones kind of hovering around, walking around, giggling when we were making jokes or having fun. And we'd end up inviting them into the circle and just come and sit. And most of them would sit very quietly and not want to disturb and not want to say, but just wanted to enjoy some French activity, some family time. And it tended to be always our family that would start asking, so where are you from? Do you have any family? How long have you been here? That type of question. So we got to know a whole bunch of people. I think that was very pleasant for some. It'd be nice if that would be provided in other manners as well, not just from a private family that decides to do that.